Good morning, Growlers Nation, and welcome back to another edition of the Doghouse for your Friday morning viewing pleasure. Chris Ballard, Brady Reed, and Kyle Curtis back with you. Just hours removed from a thrilling overtime victory for Newfoundland in Game 4 to even up the Eastern Conference Finals, and we'll get into all of the details here and tee it all up ahead of Game 5 coming up on Sunday. NLGrowlers.com/tickets. We want you there. Guys, so many exciting things to carry the Growlers through last night. So let's kind of go through the game in order, how everything fell down in front of us. Let's start with the pace of the game. I thought for the Growlers returning home from Estero, I thought it started off as a really tight checking, really fast game that was enjoyable for the fans right from puck drop, Brady.
Yeah, it's funny. Last time we sat here, we said it didn't seem possible for the physicality and the silliness after the whistles to shut off, but it actually did.
Yeah.
But it made for a much more watchable product and just a way better actual quality hockey game. Literally, not hyperbolic, one of the best 2-1 hockey games I've ever seen live in person.
Honestly.
And, we can get into kind of how they were able to find a breakthrough, but it definitely was not easy.
No, it wasn't. And Casey, not just that, the fans, I thought, were really into the game last night as well. Again, right from puck drop and especially late in the game.
Yeah, the crowd was fired up last night for sure. Just some of the songs they're putting on, the sing-alongs and stuff, they were getting right into it. And it was just a great atmosphere last night. One of the best hockey games I've ever seen live in that building. I think it's going to carry on over to the next games in the series.
Yeah, I certainly know that the Newfie Stomp went over real well in the building last night. So did Todd Skirving's goal to kick off the goal scoring for Newfoundland. It was the Everblades scoring first, but good teams find a way to overcome that. Let's start before we hit Skirving's goal. I mean, this is a couple of times now in the series that the Growlers have given up the first goal. And when you're talking about 2-1 hockey games, you know how important these first goals can be. But what did you see, Brady, that allowed the Growlers to kind of, get over having allowed the first goal against?
Yeah, I actually don't think they changed too much. Florida's first goal was just a bit of a line change. When you got that far change, sometimes when you have to make some tough decisions.
It's tough.
They got burned on one. It's not the first time Florida been able to capitalize in the series, actually, on one of those. So obviously that's something to keep an eye on going forward. But I think they just stuck to the game plan. They were, like you said, we've said this a couple times now, a quality over quantity shot team.
That's true.
They kept getting and settling for those looks that they want, and Cappy got a good look, hit the post, and then Skirving is where Skirving needs to be there, and we can maybe get into the celebration if you want.
Well, yeah, let's do exactly that. I mean, we all love, the whole building goes crazy every time Todd Skirving scores a goal. We know Marcus Power here in our office absolutely loves it.
Of course.
Talk about the Selly. What did you think of Skirving's goal? They went for a little swim there.
Yeah, we went with his best Michael Phelps impression there. It was a great classic Todd Skirving goal, too, in front of the net, got his big body parked out there. It was a great way to tie the game and really get the fans back into it.
Well, for sure. So that's Todd's team-leading 8th now. He is also tied for 3rd in the ECHL. Now, if you look back to last season's Kelly Cup run, Skirvs was one of those players that he had another great regular season, had a little trouble, maybe that's not even fair to say, but was unable to find that same level of production in the postseason. This season, with another year under his belt, completely different story for Todd, and he now is almost leading the league. I mean, what a story.
Yeah, it's funny, you almost take Todd as still, for some reason, an unsung hero for this team. If Pavel Gogolev didn't play this year, he's a franchise record goal scorer.
That's a great way to look at it.
Yeah, so it's just funny, I guess, just the amount of guys we have on American Hockey League contracts and how blessed we are to have the skill that we do. Todd still feels like a role guy, and listen, he will literally play anywhere that he's asked to, including defense, because we've seen it several times.
Yeah,
but
literally.
Yeah, I mean, the guy, I don't know what more he could do to earn a reputation for somebody who's just a genuine offensive threat for this team.
And also last night marked the return for the first time this postseason for Ryan Chizowski in the lineup. Finished with 4 shots on goal, playing alongside Zach O'Brien. And Zach solo must be nice. But I thought I thought he was the play driver on that line, Casey.
Yeah, he was really noticeable out there last night, and he kind of took that line under his wing, and he was making some great playmaking chances in the corners. Was passing, making a lot of great chances, but unfortunately they couldn't sneak one past Cam Johnson, who had a great game last night in my opinion. But it was nice to see him back in the lineup, and I think he's gonna be good for us going forward.
And I think it's worth, I didn't even have this written down, but it just popped into my head. I think it's worth talking about the defensive effort last night for the Growlers as well, especially considering, they had given up a couple of big numbers earlier in the series, but now this is back-to-back one-goal, defensive efforts. Yes, Luke Cavalin is probably the biggest part of that, and we'll get to him. But, defensively as well, the Growlers, kudos for, kind of turning it around and locking it down.
Yeah, the amount of times there was stick taps from the bench for a big block shot, especially on the penalty kill. But in general, it's just that mindset that it just seems like everybody forwards D are just diving in front of stuff, doing what they can for it. Doesn't matter if it's Dryden or Luke in the net.
Yeah.
They're both putting in performances, but they're doing their best to keep from the perimeter and play their part. But, obviously we will have to get into the Luke Cavalin show
we're getting there
Thursday night. But no, first we got to start with the guys in front of them, and then they were just... And he gave him credit after the game. So it doesn't go unnoticed.
No, for sure. And you mentioned special teams as well. As big a part as Luke Cavalin was in helping lock down that victory last night, special teams could be given a lot of credit for the same as well. 1 for 3 on the power play, 4 for 4 on the penalty kill, and obviously that power play goal coming at the most clutch opportunity. But the Growlers continue, I think, to win the special teams battle.
Yeah, for sure. The Growlers' penalty kill is 100% through the series so far, and the boys have been doing a really good job at limiting Florida's chances on their power play.
Yeah.
It's like every time they're entering the zone, the puck's after sticking down the ice.
Yeah.
So when you're doing that, it's gonna be hard for Florida to win a game if they can't convert on their special teams.
No, I think you're absolutely right. All right, let's get to it. We've been beating around the bush. Last night was the Luke Cavalin show. We all knew it. He finished with 42 saves, including 15 in overtime alone. And for historical context, that is now the second most saves by a goaltender in a single game in Growlers postseason history. Michael Gartag made 44 saves in a 4-3 win in Game 4 over Manchester in the North Division Finals back in 2019. We'll go to KC. My question is this: is that the greatest Growlers postseason goaltending performance?
I believe so. I was actually going to say that. I think that is the best Growlers goaltending performance we've ever seen.
Yeah, it could be.
I think he had multiple game savers.
Yeah.
In overtime on 2-on-1 breaks, on breakaways. He really took that game in his hands and won that game for the Growlers. I think, I'm going to say it, he looked like Bobrovsky out there.
Yeah.
He was solid. He was a wall. And if we got any version of that Luke Cavalin going forward, it's going to be hard for Florida to score a goal.
Further to that, I think KC's onto something here because, both of Florida's wins came against Dryden McKay. So maybe for lack of a better way to describe it, they figured out something with Dryden that they haven't figured out with Luke Cavalin.
Maybe it's the handedness, right? He's a right-hand catch.
That's what I mean. That could be a factor. It changes what areas of the net may be available, or maybe we're splitting hairs.
No, stylistically, they're very, very different goalies.
They are.
Beyond that, Luke is obviously very eager to get out and play the puck, and there was a couple moments last night where I thought, he's done so much here to save the game for them. Please don't do this to yourself. It's going to be all for naught, and luckily at the end, he's just supremely confident with the puck, and at the end, and we spoke about how it actually also helps them break that Florida forecheck up. We seen that again last night.
Yeah, we did.
A couple nervy moments mixed in there as well. But no, there was literally 5 or 6 moments in overtime where I thought to myself, oh, he's done so much, and now it's a 2-on-1 or it's a partial breakaway, and eventually one of these is going to have to go. But he made 8 to 9 5-star saves in overtime. And when you're in the moment, sometimes you're watching something like that, you think, I'm exaggerating a little bit. This is the best I've ever seen a goalie play. That is up there at any level with regards to an individual goalie performance.
I agree.
No, truthfully. And to give credit where it's due, Cam Johnson was almost as good last night for Florida. In his MVP form, no doubt. And again, the Everblades, I thought they played a great road game last night. They were, as the game progressed onward, they felt more and more comfortable at the Mary Brown Center, and they were the better team in overtime. But
Definitely.
the goaltender took that one away from the Everblades, and here we are sitting here in front of you. It's a brand new series, a 2-2 series. It's a best of 3 with all 3 games now left here at the Mary Brown Center. You got to think that favors the Growlers now, Casey.
Oh, yeah, for sure. They got all the momentum back now. You know, they tied the series up. They got the fan advantage. They got the home ice advantage. But, you know, and for Florida, too, like, you know, like you said, there was their overtime period last night. It's got to be very frustrating for them not to convert.
Yeah.
So, you know, they might be in their own heads a little bit, which might favor the Growlers. But I think the Growlers got a lot of momentum. They're building up ahead of steam moving forward in Sunday.
And they did so off of an overtime winner from Johnny Tyconic. Still my favorite name on the team, maybe in history. He scored his first pro playoff goal last night, but just because of the wonderful serendipitous nature, he also scored his first pro goal in his second pro game against Florida back on March 25th. The guy, he's only scored 2 goals, but he scored 2 big ones against the Everblades. Just what an ending there on the power play to finish that one off.
Yeah, you mentioned his goal back in March in Florida, and honestly, sometimes with the visiting or the away broadcast, it can be difficult to assess a new player. I always want to see them in person first.
Exactly.
But his impact was pretty immediate, right? You could see, this guy brings something different to the back end. I mean, the stats speak for themselves, but it's funny he has 2 goals. It feels like he has so many clutch moments already for this team, and he's a guy who clearly gets leaned upon in the big moments. And yeah, the celebration, the finish, it just. Like he said post game, it was hard to summarize. I feel the same way. I kind of got lost in the moment a little bit, but it's just an all-time Mary Brown Center celebration.
Well, yeah, I mean, throwing the stick in the crowd, a la Jack Hughes, and I've learned after the fact that the child who received the stick ended up getting it autographed by Johnny after the game. Big assist apparently to Jordan Escott for that one, but I mean, yeah, that's an all-time celly in this building.
Yeah, it was amazing. We had 2 great cellies last night. But yeah, he was just fired up, and at the end when he was going off, Goglev was hugging him and he was dancing. The boys were fired. They were gassed, but they were fired up. They were. But Johnny's been good for us ever since he's came over.
Yeah.
Right now he's second in the league for assists in the playoffs. I mean, the guy is just solid on the back end, not just offensively but defensively as well.
Yeah, certainly a pretty full and complete effort last night, maybe overtime notwithstanding for the Growlers. But still, I mean, the Florida Everblades, you can't forget, they are the defending Stanley Cup champions, maybe. No, the Kelly Cup champs for a reason. They still have a big returning core. They played a good game, and they were the better team in the biggest moments of that game. And you know that they are going to come out flying when we head back to the Mary Brown Center for Games 5 and now 6. Game 5 on Sunday afternoon at 4 p.m. That's Sunday the 28th. And then again on Tuesday, the 30th, again, right back at the Mary Brown Center. Still a bit of work to do, I think, for the Growlers. Some areas to clean up. We don't want to get too much into the weeds about what didn't go well last night for the Growlers, but I do think you have to talk about a couple of too many men penalties. A couple of pretty gnarly ones that definitely didn't pass the eye test. A couple of preventable things, and I do think maybe they need to work on trying to complete that full 60 minutes, that full 80 minutes, and not allow the big swells of emotion from the Everblades. Think that's fair to say?
Yeah, I do. I think, like you said, the penalties they took last night, the officials really had no choice but to call them. I thought the officials did a really good job of just letting the game flow. It was a tight game. It was 2 teams who were just playing the right way. It was, like I said, it was just an entertaining product no matter who you were cheering for. So you clean that up a little bit. You find a way to break the neutral zone up. I think Florida did a really good job of clogging that up again. That was a bit of a theme in the first 2 games of this series. Find a way. Find that creativity. This team has that in abundance. So if you can get back to that, I don't think this Growlers team is a two-goal team for long. Right?
No, I think you're right. So, KC, the boys obviously have a couple of days now before Sunday, before it all kicks off again in Game 5. What do you think the Growlers have to do the same? What do you think they maybe have to do differently in order to hopefully take a lead in this series?
I think they need to play out of their zone a bit more. I think last night Florida kind of hemmed them in their zone a little bit, even though they played really well in their own zone. I think they just need to have a little bit better in their breakouts out of the zone. Try to kind of get more pucks in deep. I know it's cliche, but I think they need to, rather than doing the fancy stuff, they need to go back to old reliable and just get pucks in deep and get into corners, because they're a great forechecking team.
No, you're absolutely right. So again, Game 5 on Sunday. After all that exciting stuff we saw last night, you know you're going to want to come and be a part of the action in person. Game 5, the 28th, Sunday at 4 p.m. And if that doesn't work for your schedule, we're back on Tuesday, the 30th at 7 p.m. NLGrowlers.com/tickets. Come be a part of that awesome crowd like we had last night at the Mary Brown Center. And I think that's going to do it for this edition of The Doghouse. So for Brady and KC, I'm Chris Ballard. We'll see you at the rink.